Welcome on in, golf fans. It's your boy Gsluke here with our DFS and betting preview for this week's Fedex St Jude Championship. Gonna get you guys ready for all of your exposure. But first off, a quick look at the golf course and the kind of key stats I'm using to identify my top plays. And then afterwards, we're gonna focus on the fantasy and betting side of things with some of my top pieces of exposure, the sorts of plays that I'll be getting well over the field on, to give you an idea of not only a few plays to consider yourself, but also the kind of process that I'm using to do so. So by the end, you'll be an expert on how to attack this slate, so we can hopefully have a solid first leg of this FedEx Cup playoff. So without further ado, we've got a stud field, a lot of great stuff to go through here. Let's get it started with our course and our modeling for this week. I have a full 20-minute course breakdown on my YouTube channel, but here we'll give you the Spark Notes version. If you want to link to the full one, it is in the description, but this is a very positional golf course. I called it a baby between the 3M Open and the Wyndham Championship because you have a lot of the water that we got up in Minnesota for the 3M, but also the positional and ball striking test that we got at Sedgefield Country Club. So you're going to see a lot of the same kind of key stats that we've been looking at for the last few weeks showing up in this model as well. And most prominently would be the approach play. There's a ton of shots from 125 to 175. So these two buckets from 125 to 150 and also 150 to 175 are juiced up a little bit more than usual, but mostly looking at form over the last 24 and last 12 measured rounds, as that is the most predictable stat that we have on the PGA Tour. Off the tee, I'm okay looking at regular off the tee form heading in. I've also got that in there over the last 24 and 12 round sample sizes, but driving accuracy is by far the most important thing at this course. There's water in play of 11 of the 18 holes, and also you've got 3-inch Bermuda grass rough, which makes hitting the 4,500 square foot greens nearly impossible. If you don't know, the tour average is about 7,000 square foot, so they're very small targets compared to the PGA Tour average, and with the unpredictability of Bermuda grass rough, it makes it extremely difficult to hit them. So you cannot ignore the short game. Putting in particular on Bermuda grass is something that you can add on top of form. Around the green as well, at 4,500 square foot greens, is going to come into play for even the best ball strikers. So it's an all-around golf course, one that brings into play all different skill sets. If you're a bomber and you're laying up off the tee, if you have a good second shot week, a good iron week, you could get there. If you're a positional player and you're good at forcing it into the fairway and being accurate, then you can lean into your wedges and have a good week that way and get hot on these Bermuda grass greens. That's another way to get to the top 5, top 10. No one is eliminated, which is perfect for the first leg of the playoffs. It's not a bomber's fest, not going to eliminate the guys like a Chris Kirk or Brian Harmon the first week out, which in my opinion is extremely fair for this kind of format. And with the comp courses, you can see those towards the bottom as well. I've got the Wyndham Championship, one of those courses that we talked about was very similar to this track, but also Sony Open, Bermuda grass from tip to toe, a short, more positional golf course as well. And then PGA National, and although it is Bermuda grass overseed now over the last few years, before that, it was almost an exact carbon copy of this course. In fact, it went from a par 70 to par 71, so it was also the same format. And with that Bermuda grass rough at PGA National, it played to the same kind of skill set. So if you go back 3 to 5 years ago at that event, a lot of crossover that can be had. And when you put it all together, it really gives us an idea of the type of player to attack. We're not really looking for bombers here. At least ideally, we want somebody that's hitting fairways, a really good iron player, and then somebody that also excels on Bermuda grass. So not a surprise when we get to our core plays this week that there is an insane amount of correlation between the four of them. A lot of them have played well at the Cognizant. They play well in the Florida Swing. They play well at these courses with a whole bunch of water. So no doubt I'm playing them at TPC Southwind. So first up, we've got ourselves Russell Henley, who is $10,000, and that's quite a price tag in this sort of field, but I think it's warranted with how he's been playing. If you take a look at the total model ranking, he's number 5 in the field, which is exactly spot in line with where he's priced. Gaining over 2.5 shots gained per round, is top 4 in the field when it comes to the recent form ranking. He's a solid putter on Bermuda grass. In fact, compared to his last 24 round baseline, it's about a third of a stroke better than what he's been doing recently, which is still some of the best golf of anyone in the field. And when we take a look at the last 12 and last 24 round baselines, you'll see that he's gaining across not only all 4 stat categories, but quite significantly in all 4 of those. Last 12 measured rounds has been Superman, especially from fairway and in, which fairway and in is by far the most important portion of this course. You have to hit fairways, but that's what Russell Henley does better than just about anyone else. And then if we go to the last 24 round sample size, he's at least neutral in the 3 tee to green categories, and then losing 1/100th of a stroke per round on the greens. And the thing that I think really benefits him in this kind of scenario is that he's playing on Bermuda grass, which historically is his best putting surface. And whether it's the Florida swing, other Bermuda grass tracks that we play throughout the years, some of his best putting performances come with this type of grass. So at $10,000, to me, he's a no-brainer with that form. And though the event history isn't maybe as solid as some of the other players that we're going to go through here, the last 3 years they have played this specific event at TPC Southwind. He went T30, which is kind of whatever, but T6 is great at this sort of number. He did miss the cut in 2022, but if we go to the performances before this, which were at the WGC, they're okay as well. Nothing that's really that earth-shattering for a Russell Henley, but at this style of golf course, the shorter positional ones where that second shot is really the priority, that's where he's made his hay for his PGA Tour career. And now that he's really ascended to the next level, he's become a more consistent player, somebody that we've seen in contention a lot more in 2025. He's won the big API down in Florida, but he's also sniffed contention in even major championships. I think he's a better player than what he used to be. And, when we get him at these sort of golf courses, I understand why he's up there with the elites, both in terms of your outright betting odds and the Draftkings price at $10,000. And the psychological difference of him being $10,000 as opposed to $9,900 is, I think, massive. I think if Tommy Fleetwood was 10 grand and Russell Henley was $9,900, it could be a 5 to 7% ownership swing from player to player just based on that psychological factor alone. So if you're somebody that's playing a DFS and trying to, get some leverage towards the top end of the board, I don't think that Henley is going to be low owned by any means, but maybe a little bit lower owned than he should be because of the fact that he has that 5-digit price. And next up, we've got our next core play. And by the way, I did take a top 10 bet on him. The outright betting odds are just not great on Hard Rock Bet. I think they had him at 30 to 1, where he's closer to, I think, 33 to 1 on some spots. So maybe I get some drift there. Maybe I can boost it up and take him in that market. But my main bet at this point is in DFS and for the top 10 at plus 225. But our next play is going to be Sepp Straka at $8,700. He's another one of those positional players. He's won the Cognizant in the past. He won this year at the Wickeson Club, which was another shorter positional kind of golf course. And Bermuda grass, though he's not one of the best players in the field on the surface, he's not a half bad putter on it. He's at least a gainer on the surface for his career. He also gains on bent grass. That's his favorite surface on the PGA Tour. But on the other 2 or 3 surfaces that we track, the main ones, Paspalum, bent Poa, he loses on those other 3 surfaces. So it's at least one of the 2 types of grasses where he tends to find some success. And if we take a look at the stat profile, it's almost the exact same as Henley. Hit a bunch of fairways, be a really good second shot player, and the shots gain metrics back that up as well. So over the last 12 measured rounds, he's gaining in every category but the putter, which is okay because this week it's a type of grass that he's a little bit better on. But the tee to green stats, the form recently, maybe hasn't been as good as some of the other players around him, only gaining about 0.6 strokes per round, but he's into the positive in the 3 most important categories, and that makes him a bit of a sleeping giant. He's not going to get nearly as much steam, as much ownership as some of the other guys with better form, and from the course fit angle, he's by far the best in this range in my opinion. And when we go to the last 24 rounds, you can see the form is pretty much the same. He's still gaining in the 3 tee to green categories, neutral around the green, but then gaining with the putter. So that's what takes him from, losing 0.2 strokes in that category to gaining 0.4, takes him from 0.6 to 1.2 shots gained total per round. And now that we have him on a type of grass that should put him back into the positive, that's the kind of improvement that we can expect on a week like this, let alone the upside if he has a better week than usual, a spike week in any sort of category to go out there and get that top 5, top 10 for us. So I love that at $8,700. It's also very cheap for Sepp Straka, at least considering how they've played in 2025. He's far outperformed Hideki, he's far outperformed guys like Cantlay, even more Cabo, which is crazy to say, but he's really had a down year. You could even say Hovland outside of the win, that Straka with his multiple wins and a lot more consistent top 25 finishes. Even Matty Fitz, Ludwig Aubert, you could say the same exact thing about. I think that he's $1,000 too cheap. He's not going to get the kind of steam that he should because the form is just okay, not great recently, and this is the perfect kind of setup for him. And the event history isn't robust. He didn't play this when this was the WGC, was not playing in the high-tier events at that stage of his career. But over the last 3 years, 2 lackluster performances, which are not what we're looking for, T61 and 63rd, but his first time here finished in second place in a playoff to, I believe, Will Zalatoris. So that was the kind of spike performance that we're hoping for, and that was before Sepp Straka became the player that he is today. He's a much more consistent player at this point, multiple-time tour winner. I mean, legit European Ryder Cup stud that they're expecting to go out there and win at least 2, probably 3 points in a coming month or two. Just love Sepp Straka this week. So if he's getting slept on, if the ownership's not going to be there at that kind of price tag, then I'm going to be all over him in my GPP and cash lineups. Before we go through our 2 value plays, do want to remind you where you guys can find these spreadsheets for yourself. To download these with all my projections and modeling and my entire player pool, make sure to check out my Patreon page. By joining the DFS tier there, the golf tier in particular, you'll have access to all of these, not only for main slate like you see in these videos, but also for rounds 2 through 4 showdown. So for Friday, Saturday, Sunday on tour, I'm always covering those slates as well. So if you guys want to download these, be able to do all the same sort of research that we're doing here for every single player that's teeing it up, make sure to join the Patreon. Again, link in the description of the video also helps support the channel. On there, we got recent form, event history for every single player, also the shots gained metrics over the last 12 and 24 rounds, and the exact custom modeling weightings that I'm using for the week to help you guys with your own models that you're running. So check it out if you guys haven't already, and let's go on to our 2 value plays next. So first up, they've got Daniel Berger, who I proclaimed this as Daniel Berger week, and that's because he loves this golf course. And if you take a look at the event history, you may go, what do you mean? He's never played here before. Like, what is this that you're talking about? Because the last 3 years are where they've played at TPC Southwind. These 2 were at Liberty National. So that is 2021 and 2020. Just keep that in mind when you're looking at this event history tab. But Daniel Berger is the prince of TPC Southwind. He's got 2 top 5 finishes in a row. His last 2 times out there when it was at the WGC. He does have 1 missed cut, which isn't great. But what did he do the 2 performances before that in his 5 starts? Oh, he went with back-to-back wins at this golf course. He loves it. It's his style of golf. And really, Daniel Berger, I think, is the perfect example of why I'm on this player archetype this week. The guys that are accurate off the tee, really, really good iron players in all 4 cases with these 4 core plays that we're going to look at. And they've played well at courses with a whole bunch of water. And Daniel Berger is the quintessential player when we get to like the Cognizant Classic. He like always gets into contention. No win, crazy over the last 5-6 years, but the most top 5, top 10s that you can possibly imagine at these style golf courses, because the ball striking works, especially that straight ball at a golf course like this. So again, event history, way better than most people out there would realize. And if we go to the last 24 and last 12 measured rounds, he's been absolutely striping it. The issue for Berger, and it's not really an issue, it's just that he hasn't been playing as much recently. He locked up the top 30 earlier this year. He's, I think, sitting at like number 25 right now in the FedEx Cup rankings, and it's because he's been an absolute stud. He doesn't even have to play all that much. He'd rather be sitting on his boat fishing in the Jupiter Harbor. I've actually seen him out there a couple of times while on a couple of my friends' boats. He's just an absolute chiller like you wouldn't expect. It's why he's one of my favorite golfers. Probably number 2 in the world behind Jordan Spieth for me. But yeah, losing short game when he was doing that overseas. And we pointed it out on some of the showdown streams for both the Genesis and the Open Championship, where he was losing like 5 strokes short game per round. Last 12 rounds is the same. In fact, I think it gets even worse for him. Yeah, he's losing 1.2 short game per round. Now we get him back on Bermuda grass. He doesn't have to deal with that weird bent grass out there in the Midwest that he doesn't like playing on. That's why he hasn't been teeing it up. There aren't golf courses that really suit his game. He doesn't putt well on bent POA. He does not chip as well out of that Midwestern stuff. And then especially overseas, when I'm at like the Open Championship on fescue, the guy does not like putting on those bumpy greens. You know what he loves putting on? Bermuda grass. In fact, he's 3/4 of a stroke better per round on Bermuda grass. You've seen him in the Florida swing. These events tear it up on the greens as well. Give me some Daniel Berger this week. In fact, top 10 at plus 325 is absolutely disrespectful. He's got some of the best ball striking form of really anyone in the field. I mean, 1.5 shots gained per round over his last 12, 1.3 close to that over his last 24 measured rounds. It shits on everyone else around him. And yeah, the short game's been a problem, but this is also a completely different style golf course. It's Bermuda grass, which is exactly what he's familiar with. Being from down here in Florida, playing at FSU, you name it, it's just the exact style of golf that he plays day in and day out. Love myself some Daniel Berger here. So using him in DFS, I think because we haven't seen him as much that people probably won't use him, and I think that's a big mistake. The guy just doesn't need to play golf. He knows where he stands at this point. He's had a good enough year where he can almost pull a Rory and sit back and lay on his laurels. Now, he's in the playoffs. This is such a good golf course for him that you know for sure that he was going to be teeing it up. Let's see what he does here this week. And then the last player we've got here is Shane Lowry at $7,400, who the form is probably the worst here out of any of the players, but the Cognizant Classic history is unbelievable, so that's a really good comp course for him. He also has a top 6 finish at this golf course when it was the WGC, and the event history over the last 3 years has kind of fallen off a bit, especially the last couple times out, T50, T46, but at the other event, which was a stronger field, by the way, when it was at the WGC, he lit it up around here, and the comp course history is good enough for me to slightly overlook these 2 bum performances the last few times out, because he's accurate off the tee. He's a really good iron player. We know that about Shane Lowry. And even over the last 12 measured rounds, which has been really down for him, he's still gaining a half a stroke per round with the irons, which is by far the most important stat category for us. And you would think that the link soil would have been good for him with his short game, but it wasn't. He actually struggled over there, and he'll be the first one to tell you that he's a South Florida resident now. He's used to Florida. He's used to that grainy Bermuda grass down in Jupiter, just about 15-minute drive from where I'm from. And Shane Lowry has lit it up on this surface over the years. In fact, his putting stats are about a third of a stroke better per round, but more importantly, his around the green on this grainy stuff is about a half a stroke gained around the green per round, which is elite level stuff. In fact, it's even better than his baseline, which is one of the best around the green players on tour to begin with. So I love myself some Shane Lowry as a bounce back, and what's beautiful about it too is that he's not going to be popular because he's had some of those down performances. Guys like Jake Knapp with the better form are going to suck that up. Even like a Denny McCarthy I could see being slightly higher owned. So if you're giving me a sneaky Shane Lowry at a golf course that really fits his game, I'll take him for that top 10 at plus 450. But from the DFS perspective, I don't think he's going to be as highly owned as a Berger is. So you're going to be getting an ownership discount here on Lowry. It's not even like I think Berger's going to be chalk either, but Lowry you could be seeing at like, I don't know, 5 to maybe 6, 7% ownership in large field GPPs, which makes him very easy to get 2x leverage on the field on, if not to try and be even more aggressive than that, which is probably what I'll be doing since he's down as a value play for me. And he really just, this is the style of golf that he excels at. So those are the 4 core plays for this week, guys that I'm getting well over the field on. You can see the trend on them. Positional players, guys that keep themselves in play, that have played well with courses with a lot of water. Alrighty guys, that's all I've got for the betting and DFS preview. Go ahead, smash that like button if you guys haven't already, and also comment down below who you've got winning this golf tournament for a chance to earn a free month on my Patreon page. And as long as they are at least 30-1 on the major books to win, you will win a free month access to all my projections and modeling, not only for main slate like you guys see here, but also for rounds 2 through 4 showdown, and all the prop stuff that I'm posting too. So maybe you're not big into the pick'em side of things on Prize Picks or Underdog. If not, it's a whole lot of fun. It's in my opinion the best sweat that we have on golf, that in showdown. Make sure to check that out. Give me your guess down below to earn that free access. And if you guys want to join the Patreon page without having to win a silly giveaway like this, then go ahead and just join over there. The DFS tier for $15 a month is how you can get access to the spreadsheets. The golf combined tier, that's the $25 tier, that gives you props and all the DFS stuff that I'm doing. And on the prop side, it's not just like all the bets that I'm placing, but also all the research behind it. Stat averages for all the golf courses ahead of time, stat averages after every single round, and weather reports to give you an idea of exactly how it's going to play. So make sure to go ahead, enter the giveaway if you guys haven't already. Smash that like button as well, and I'll see you guys throughout all the week for the rest of the content. That'll include our live streams for rounds 2 through 4. Those will be after the round ends on the Ship It Nation YouTube channel for Showdown, and then the prop side of things afterwards. And then, of course, on Wednesday, we're going to have the 2 live streams before lock, 7 p.m. Eastern time on the Ship It Nation YouTube channel. That'll be for the Draftkings DFS slate. And then afterwards, Experts. That's where we're going to break down the prop and the betting side of things. So that'll be at 8 p.m. Eastern time on my YouTube channel, going through the underdog and price pick stuff, as well as all the matchups on the sports books and any last second bets that you guys want me to deep dive. But until then, best of luck with your research. Let's get after it this week. Let's start off the playoffs strong and enter that Mamba mentality, right? Some people really step up their game this time of year. I like to think of myself as clutch under pressure. So let's see if we can back that up, have ourselves a week here for the first week of the playoffs, and I'm excited for everything to come.